And we are live for another episode of First Strike. And of course, before we start every show, got to plug our sponsor, FaceToFaceGames.com, the #1 place to get your Magic the Gathering singles. This week, the weekly special is on select Legacy singles, up to 50% off. So you could save a lot of money if you're looking to buy a Legacy deck. Just go to FaceToFaceGames.com right now. And tonight, full cast. We got the full team. We got Andy, we got Derek, we got Elliot. We got John in the house, and we're going to be celebrating Elliot's birth into the first Mythic Championship. But before that, got to plug the Patreon for the show to thank all our patrons for supporting the show. And you can be a patron by going to patreon.com/firststrike. As I've said a few episodes ago, we are upping our game with the lull in between, with Rob having a second kid, with Brian moving on to the game podcast, with Vince D'Agostino starting his own games cafe, Waypoint Games and Cafe. And then with Doug, he moved on to acting at that point, took a break. And now we have this core group. And before we would post different decks or experiments that we were working with, I remember when we were one of the first to put Mardu out there. Gottlieb had this, Brian Gottlieb put out this awesome Mardu sideboard guide, deck list. I think Rob took it to great success in many tournaments, and then again there was this law where we're trying to figure out new co-hosts and stuff. And now that we finally have a core group, the stuff that we've been putting out is higher production value than ever before. We're putting out these battle plans of decks that these guys are actually actively playing at tournaments, tools and notes that they're actually using and bringing to these tournaments. So whether it be Dredge, Grishoalbrand, Blue White Control, Blue Moon from Alex Bianchi. We've got Drake's, courtesy of Andy. We've got Green Black, Olgari, courtesy of Derek. So everything that we're actually playing, not only with sideboard guides, but with notes on different matchups. And now we're starting to do a one-sheet printable version at the end of each guide, so people can just print that and go to their tournament, which a patron or a fan of ours suggested. So we were putting that out as well. So definitely more than we've ever done before, just to thank everyone for supporting the show. So now, with that said, congratulations, Elliot, on qualifying for the very first Mythic Championship.
The very first Mythic Championship.
In Cleveland. I know you in the different chats called it Mythic Fest sometimes. Like we're merging,
I had no idea.
We're merging all the terms, but congrats.
Thank you. I got a lot of supportful messages afterwards, and it really meant a lot. I got a lot of people saying, long time coming. I got a few messages from Andy saying, short time coming. But it's super hyped. I played KCI, which we were saying on the podcast was the deck to be playing, and it feels really good to kind of be validated in that. And also, I'm really excited to play the first Mythic Championship. Number one.
So excited to get a representative of First Strike on the very first Mythic Championship. Excited to, with the podcast Run Good. Elliot, was this the first? How much experience? It just felt like you didn't have that much experience with the KCI and was going to rely on you consuming the manifesto before the tournament.
The last time I played KCI before this RPTQ was at Canadian Nationals, so something like five months ago, I think now. I didn't have the deck and paper. I was borrowing it. So I thought about like proxying it up with some Sharpie and just like getting reps in that way. But I really didn't want to be discouraged from playing it. And I didn't want to play it on Moto and just hate myself for playing it there. So I was kind of just trying to lean on that little bit of past experience I had, and as well as like the great resources that are out there. Like you mentioned, the KCI manifesto, which I learned that after reading it some more, the guy doesn't like the fact that it's called a manifesto. He kind of begged at the end, don't call it a manifesto. I've been calling it on it for a few weeks now, so I hope I didn't do any harm. But it's a great resource. Canister's article is a great resource. And I mean, don't do as I say, not as I do. Like, but even if you don't have the time commitment to be grinding, 10, 20, 100 games of Magic or matches of Magic with a deck, you you can do well. Like, the resources are out there. We have the sideboard guides in the nation. We have all this other stuff. Like Magic content's at its peak right now.
Right, and I think, but why does he even want to call it manifesto? I think it's a great branding thing. It's like the manifesto, as Andy would say, the guy. It's the one.
I said he doesn't want to be considered a crazy person.
Matt, I think as we talked about in the chat, maybe you guys wouldn't have bought the manifesto beforehand, but anything he produces from here on forward could easily be sold with his reputation on display, and people know what he's able to help. Like, he's able to help you get there. How was the tournament? Like, I think you mentioned in our private chat that you didn't face any tough matchups.
Yeah, well, I played against Grixis Shadow, which is definitely KCI's hardest matchup, but I got extremely lucky to not play against any hate cards. Like, the worst I had to deal with was having a Nature's Claim and a Tormod's Crypt in the same turn. That was it. I didn't play against Stony Silence, didn't play against Rest in Peace, didn't play against Layla in the Void. I was just like blessed all day to be running so hot. Like, I played against Boggles round 1, and I'm like bumbling through the combo, and my opponent's like, you know what, you got it, man. And he flips the top card of his deck, and it's Gaddock Teeg. And I just have 0 ways in my deck to kill a Gaddock Teeg because I miss sideboarded. And like, it just never came up where my opponent had one of those incredible hate cards against KCI that's like the reason not to play the deck. So it was, the stars aligned. It was my day. I don't think I played great, but I played the right deck and I got lucky. And sometimes that's what it takes in Magic.
Andy, were you surprised at your good friend's performance?
No. Like, he's been doing very well in a lot of tournaments lately, and I don't think it's an accident. Like, when you talk with like Magic players that have strong quality over and over again all day, and sometimes, yeah, it's like us like crapping on him or him crapping on us at big arguments, but like, we're constantly talking about how to improve. So I'm not surprised that Elliot is the latest of our brood to play in a Mythic Championship / Pro Tour. I'm not surprised. The deck's a very good deck, and I think Elliot is very smart, and he can understand those kind of decks pretty well.
No regrets on deck choice, of course.
Well, how do you regret a deck when you win the tournament?
You?
I also went 5-2 with like little to no real practice.
So it does sound like usually it's a type of deck when you hear about it that you're scared of, because people are like, oh, how complicated it is to play and how much of a hassle it is to play on MTGO. But it looks like maybe it's a tad overrated, and if you put the time with these resources, read up a bunch, maybe goldfish a bit, and give yourself an edge in any upcoming Modern tournament.
Yeah, I genuinely think like with like a set of like a few tips and knowing the one loop, you could basically play any tournament.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that it's a little overstated how hard KCI is to play. Like, I definitely don't want to be taking away from any of like the masters of the deck, like Canister and Matt Nast, that kind of thing. But for example, the manifesto, as I'll continue to call it, he can't stop me, is includes like 8 different infinite combos. It's just like all these variations, different setup, all sorts of stuff. But when it comes down to it, if you have Scrap Trawler and KCI in play, it's basically Splinter Twin. Like, sure, that's not an infinite combo in itself, and maybe you need the 2 other pieces, like a Spell Bomb and a Trawler to actually be doing it. You're just going to get to see so many cards, even if you don't know the 6 edge case combos, that you're going to get to the main combo of Scrap Trawler, KCI, Mirror Retriever, and an Egg. Like, you're just going to get there guaranteed. And, Spine of Ishsaw is a great, like, training wheel. It's an extra combo piece. It helps with utility. And Sai is like, I just said it in the chat. Sai is Time Walk and Black Lotus in a card, which is just insane, obviously hyperbole, but it's huge for combo turns, huge for getting you to the combo turns. Like, if you just jam games, even if you don't remember all the combos, even if you don't sequence everything perfectly, the deck's super powerful. You're going to win matches of Magic with it.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like when I was playing against Bianchi, and he's like, "This is a loop here, isn't it?" And I'm like, "I don't know, and it doesn't matter."
Derek, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to say I recently bought KCI on Moto, and I don't even think it's that difficult to play on Moto. It's definitely more difficult than most other decks, but I would like say it's as difficult as playing like 4-color Saheeli. It's just like a bunch of clicking and knowing what you're doing. And like I certainly am not as good at the deck as Elliot and Andy are, and I think I 3-2'd and I even 4-1 to league just by like the deck just sometimes just you can't lose. There's nothing you can do. I think I played against Black White Eldrazi where they played, what was it? They played Stony Silence, Rest in Peace, Stony Silence, and I beat all three and then beat them in the match. And I was just like blown away at the power level of the deck. And I'm playing awfully. Like it blows me away. The deck's really powerful.
Why are you playing Modern?
So the cards in Modern are extremely cheap right now due to the market crash, if you will, and because of the not the Mythic Championship, the weekend challenges that qualify you for the Mythic Super Mox Championship, whatever new name they'll give that. So I'm trying to learn the format and really broaden my horizons. I played Spirits today, and that was a really fun deck. I went 3-2 with that one also, and I got to play creatures this time. Combat Math is my specialty, so I don't have to play these artifact combo decks. So yeah, Modern's fun when your opponent just always has it all. But yeah, next is Legacy. So a couple weeks you'll see me playing Legacy.
I got to play Bant Spirits from the LCQ. I had listened to the LCQ the day before Elliot's RPTQ this past weekend, and I listened to Pro Points where PV talked about how much he still loved. He played Bant Spirits in his last major Modern tournament. He still loved it. He felt like it was one of those decks that for people that didn't have that much experience with Modern. I hadn't played serious Magic in forever, so I decided to listen to his advice, and then found a sideboard guide online on Harry Ruya by Sebastian Pozo. Decided to take most of it, although I took some input from John and other people online on how to tweak it, like against Dredge and stuff. And it felt pretty good. Ended up making top 8, but lost in the mirror in the quarterfinals. I do feel, I don't know why I have to mention this. Like I feel my wins came when, I guess, against players like local competitive players in the LCQ that weren't either that experienced themselves either, and that's where I had my huge edge. Like against in one round against Blue White Control, someone played my opponent played turn 2 Stony Silence against me, and I was very happy to see that. Just because like I think it only plays 3 Aether Vials, so it wasn't really shutting down my deck. And against Control, I'd rather I'll take that exchange any day that they have Stony Silence in their deck. And maybe he was just really affected by my Aether Vials in game 1, because in the same game 2, I would play Knight of Autumn, and he would just motion to bring his Stony Silence to the bin to me. So I'm like, as if it's like the obvious thing to do. It's like he's already doing that. And I'm like, what's going on here? I want to make it a 4-3, right? He actually made me doubt for a second that I was doing the wrong play. But sure enough, I made it a 4-3, ended up winning with it, and also beat someone that's playing the Drake's deck, the Arclick deck, I think, which is super powerful. And one of the last turns, I could have won, didn't top deck the right card, ended up top decking Collected Company with 4 mana, but was at 1 life and had a fetch land, so couldn't crack and lost. But the turn before, he gave me an out to draw Lord to win. He played Manamorphose, said 2 red, played a Grim Lavamancer, and passed. And then later showed me that he actually also had a Lightning Bolt in hand. And people who were watching the game were like, what's going on? Why didn't he just use the Lightning Bolt to kill me? So I felt like locally, I just feel like everyone is at the same level of experience. So I had a legit chance of winning the tournament. But with that said, with me having a decent result, But because of these reasons, that doesn't really tell me how good Bant Spirits really was. But Derry, did you like the deck?
Yeah, I found like it. Maybe it's more my play style. I don't know if everybody's noticed yet, but I'm kind of like a mid-rangey sort of get out little advantages creature math sort of person instead of a really degenerate combo off the wall sort of weird underground dojo kind of guy. So I think Spirits is a little bit more up my alley. When Bant Company wasn't standard, that was my favorite deck. I used to play Elves when Coco was in Modern, and I love Pod. So creatures are right up my alley. I love hate bears. I love little things like that. So I definitely had a bit more fun playing this deck. I think a good KCI pilot has a higher ceiling than a good Spirits pilot. Like, to me, Spirits can only do so much. It's sort of one-dimensional, I guess, in that sense. Whereas, like, a good KCI player could probably sweep the floor with most decks of the format. I don't think Spirits can do that. But yeah, I think the deck's very fun. I think between KCI and Spirits, those are two of the best decks in the format right now. And then I can't imagine like there's many other decks that are up that high that aren't meta decks. But then again, I don't know that much about Modern.
I think I love my stories. Getting I think that's Marcus. Man, I wish I RPTQ'd there. And then Andy, Montreal is notoriously soft.
Is it really?
Compared to Toronto, like, so most people in Canada, it's Toronto or Montreal, and like before, Toronto had like a whole bunch of players who like were like silver plus caliber players, and then Montreal has, you know, yeah.
Maybe I should start going to Montreal, because Toronto is really kind of difficult when you look around like an average RPTQ room. If Montreal's that soft, whew.
I did hear at the RPTQ a story about someone who I think was from out west and, you know, had to pick between Toronto and Montreal. And historically they had gone to Toronto, but the last time they went there, they got paired against Edgar before he was a gold pro. And so they were just like, how can anyone go to Toronto? There's no Edgar here.
Well, to be fair, there's no longer any Edgar in Toronto, but yeah. Man, between like sometimes Xiao, sometimes Fournier,
Rich Hohen.
Rich Hohen. You have the Michigan grinders, like the guys we beat to
Bianchi, yeah,
to top two our team. Like, Bianchi's from Buffalo, isn't he?
Yeah, whatever.
But
Buffalo,
like
Michigan.
the RIW guys, like sometimes Bogomez is there, however you pronounce his last name. And then you have like Morgan before he was gold. And man, Toronto's tough.
Yeah, we had Albertans fly in to play the RPTQ. My friends, shout out to Jared Gashadi, shout out to Andre. They came out to play. I guess they didn't do as well as Elliot though. And I'll finish with so with Bant Spirits. I mean there was some inexperience on my end. I definitely did some misplays or didn't play optimal lines because I hadn't had enough experience with all the image interactions within the deck. But I look forward to playing some more. Again, I don't really know how powerful it is because just a lot of matchups. And I played against a deck that this cast makes fun of a lot in round 2 in the 1-0 bracket, which is Blue-Green Merfolk. So I thought of you guys when I was playing against it. And it was... Well, against Bant Spirits, it's basically a race. So in that matchup, at least, you know, it's not. Go ahead.
Did you make fish noises? Please tell me you like glub glub whenever you activated Vile.
No, I did not.
Glub.
KYT just sweating bullets, being like, if I lose to this deck and they find out.
Hey, KYT, did you do anything this weekend? No, I just stayed home and read a book. Didn't lose the fish or anything.
Oh, man. Maybe a bad time to say I got ran over by Merfolk at the RPTQ. That was my only loss. I got destroyed.
You're your first KYT. If you lost a fish, you would have won the event. I figured it out.
Damn. Okay, now let's go to our man who went all the way to GP Portland and give us, our listeners, an insight of like the god of the graveyard has decided to switch gears. The eye roll, I love it. From Dredge back to his old baby. And you were actually made fun of on Twitter also for having a miser's sideboard. They're like, I've been playing this deck for 100 games. Your sideboard makes no sense to me. So take it away, John.
Yeah, after having a lot of success with Dredge in Vegas, obviously, and medium success in the Seattle RPTQ, I just thought I'd bring it back here to the Grishoalbrand side. I thought that Humans was going to be declining immensely here, and I think I can beat Spirits. And the thesis was that, Arclight decks are light on permission and not that fast. Hardened Scales is also very good and a good matchup. And, like KCI is like specifically something that I was trying to like prey on. I ended up playing against it 3 times and went 1-2, so go figure. But I thought the format was speeding up. I thought Human as a fun police was declining rapidly, so I thought, why not give it a try? Also, the guy that was lending Dredge cards to me took it back, so Loco can play Dredge, and he went X2-1. So clearly, the deck is very blessed.
How did your friends do?
Marcus and I explored. The guy that was boring Dredge went X2-1. We had a local who was on the post-mortem lunge Vizier combo, top-8'd, and promptly got dusted off in 2 games after 10 minutes, the quarterfinals starting. So, but we had a bunch of Vancouver locals littering the top 64. So I think we had a pretty good representation.
So would Mill fall under your wheelhouse of expertise? Would that be sort of a graveyard-ish thing to do?
Yeah, Mill is like the best or worst kept secret right now among the spiky modern cabal, I guess. I know Jason Chung has been streaming it to pretty good success here. I know West Coast shouted it out. I was talking to Bob Wang earlier, and he's convinced that Mill is a thing. I think the main thing that people need to take away from it is obviously Mission Briefing and Archive Trap is a pretty good combo. Being that it's not like Snapcaster, but Mission Briefing can flash back, quote unquote, Archive Trap and pay the free cost. And I also think that people need to get away from looking at Mill as a pseudo burn deck, but more of a surgical extraction control deck, where it dismantles the opposing strategy by surgically in the key cards. And honestly, it might not be the worst idea here with Humans declining here. And we have a lot of decks in the top tier that's dependent on 1 or 2 specific cards like Valakut, Tron, Storm, etc. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try Mill in the future. I'm not sure how good it is, but Jason Chen's obviously very good with it, and he has had great success with it.
Yeah, you mentioned he had gone. No, I'm trying to, but I read that he finished 20th, right? Right, John? Or
I heard that he went from 10-1 to 10-4 and missed on the top 4. That's what I heard.
Losing 2 probably winning ends, 1 pro point, no gold, great teammates though. GP Liverpool. This is the deck I played at GP Liverpool. I played a Dismember for cut due to Unified. Would run it back. Deck is great, but incredibly hard to play. Sideboard guide and some VODs are in my Twitch channel, so definitely check that out. Have you Elliot? I think you mentioned that it looked nice as well.
Yeah, I played against Jason Chung on Moto when I was playing some of the other decks preparing for the RPTQ, and kind of just got browned. I was playing Burn at the time, and he cast the card Crypt Incursion, which is sort of just 3 mana win the game. And I think the Mill deck is kind of close. It's historically been like dismissed as a casual deck. And also, maybe not really explored because Glimpse the Unthinkable used to be like $50. But I think that, as John mentioned, the interaction between Hedron Archive Trap, and Mission Briefing, I think that's incredibly strong. Having essentially 4 extra copies of a Mill 13 in that deck I think it does actually get it a little closer to being a burn deck, where you have a reasonable clock to kill them, and as well as Surgical Extraction being such a powerful card in Modern right now. You know, a single Glimpse the Unthinkable followed up by Surgical Extraction is probably going to be good enough to beat, you know, Ironworks. It's going to buy you a ton of time against Tron. I think the Dredge matchup's laughable. Surgical very good against Izzet Phoenix, you know. So you have these like basically free win matchups where you're casting Surgical Extraction after a mill card, and I think that's just like really good. You know, so I expect to see it maybe pick up a bit more. It definitely suffers from it probably won't get any better ever. You know, it's really hard for a card to get printed for mill. Like we have Mission Briefing for the first time as a new card since like Mind Funeral. So
if I can just jump in here, I have a funny story while testing mill here, and I do agree with what Elliot said. There was a game where I was testing, and my opponent was going mulliganing from 6 to 5 to 4, and I'm just like, oh, LOL, this is a free win. So he keeps on 4, and he plays a pre-board Leyline of Sanctity, and then I pause for a good 30 seconds, look at the 60, and I literally have 0 out to that card. And shamefully, I have to scoop to a turn 0 Leyline of Sanctity because there was no way for me to get ahead even with like Mesmeric Orb. All they needed was like a 1 mana Bogles and a 20 turn clock. So one of the weaknesses for the deck I think is Leyline, but who's playing that nowadays, right? So I think that's another good point towards mill being good, as well as just having a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 decks that's reliant on a few specific cards.
So what would you play, John? In let's say you had an important modern tournament. Are you going to focus on mill, running back Grishoalbrand, bringing back Dredge? Or playing KCI and reading the damn manifesto.
It's KCI. I think if all you care about is winning, I think KCI is the best deck to play against the wide field. I kind of expect the deck to get a ban within the next 12 months, not only for the power level reason, but also for like the unfun or the logistics reason as well. And those like 10-minute combo turns that for like those less experienced KCI pilots, you know, we had the same thing with like Divining Tops for less experienced Miracles players, right? So I might see, until it gets banned though, if you're a Spike, I think that you need to play this deck. I do have one relatively off the wall deck that I think is very good right now, and if I was testing for a big event, I would play, and that's 4-color Death Shadow. That's Jund with blue. And I think that with the humans metagame share falling rapidly here, I think it's very good against the other linear decks. It's surprisingly good against spirits because they actually place a lot more actual removal versus like GDS, which has like a lot of Serum Visions and a lot of like spinning the wheels. And it's got a very fast clock with a turn 2 Tarmogoyf as well, and it's obviously very good against combo as well. So I think those are the 2 spots I would look towards here. KCI if you care about winning a lot and if you like comboing. And 4-color Death Shadow is something I would recommend people think more critically about because I think it's a pretty good spot right now.
I assume that's the recommendation for the rest of you guys. Actually got a plug. BaseFaceGames.com Red Deer Open happening this weekend. So that's a big tournament. Again, our Alberta attendance is usually off the hook. Usually people travel from even Saskatchewan, different places, provinces nearby, cities nearby, travel all the way to that tournament because they don't get high-level competition where they are. They don't get big tournaments. So they go to the Red Deer Open. And if you're anywhere in the area and you're wanting to play competitive Magic, you definitely should go there. And if you're down to win, definitely play KCI, according to these guys. So now that Modern is like the last chance to make it to the Mythic Championship is over. Elliot gets be one of the last ones to be in, and I mean I'm just so excited. I just can't wait to be able to cheer for this guy at the tournament. I'm just excited to see he's at the first Mythic Championship. I don't even know the details. I don't even know what that means, but it's the first one. It excites me. Now we're turning the corner. A standard. There's some local PPTQs coming up. And of course, our resident expert, Derek, trophy leader. Still Golgari? Golgari, I guess.
I mean, would you guys be surprised if I said yes?
I'm playing Jeskai now. That would be
yeah. Could you imagine? No, I think Green Black's proven itself to be the most consistent deck that's not metaed. I don't see a good reason to not play it. And I think if you're playing Green Black, you better be the best mono white player, Jeskai player in the entire world. Because like, come on, every person that's like a good standard player is playing Green Black. They might have a different list than I am, but like the archetype's very similar. You can't go much wrong. Like just take a look at Brad's deck from standard this weekend, Green Black. Like there's a good amount of Green Black in the top decks of the format, top players of the format. I mean, I don't really know how you can go wrong with it. I think other than maybe a couple pre-TQs left this season, the time between like November and January is pretty poor because it's really drawn out for Magic event. So I think like standard isn't going to change much. We're not going to get very many exciting things. I'm really looking forward to the next set to come out and the new information on Mythic Fest or whatever we're calling them.
We keep merging Magic.
Yeah, whatever thing. Like maybe I'll take up best of one standard for Arena to really learn some new things. But to me, I think standard's pretty solved. There's not a whole lot going on. Yeah.
I'm taking a quick look on MTG Goldfish. Some standard results. Kogamo, which is Kenji Samura, 5-0 with Izzet Drakes recently. Apparently it won or was first in the standard portion, or won Izzet Drakes, Andrew Jessup first. There's a Jeskai Nexus deck from Gerard Fabiano. What are the alternatives that people can play, Andy, as the other standard grinder here?
Just like there's a few different variations of Izzet that are very good. And I think basically like what makes Izzet and Jeskai good is like it all kind of revolves around like Niv Mizzet and like Crackling Drake both being like very good cards. And if you protect it with Dive Down, they kill extremely fast. So like that's kind of what the premise of those decks are. So currently I'd still play an Arclight version, but I have been testing a lot with the versions without Arclight Phoenix, and I don't know how to describe it other than I don't like them as much, but I'm winning a lot. Like they feel like they don't apply pressure, and I'm like, how am I ever going to beat a control deck? How am I ever going to beat Golgari with this deck? And then you just sort of eventually kind of do sometimes, even though like sometimes like Vivian Reed is just so unbeatable sometimes with this version. It's like very frightening, but it keeps winning, and I've done pretty well with it testing on Magic Arena. For the first time, I've been doing a lot of testing on Arena, and honestly, it's pretty good. I like it. Arena is the future. We esports now. Lowercase e sports.
See the Keith Capstick image going around, making its rounds. John, have you kept your eye on standard at all? I know you've always looking for any underrated brews in the underground dojo.
I really like the big red deck that Ben White is playing. I mean, I've documented my evolution here. You know, from the time I went 6-0 into 03 for my first KTQ, I went from small red to bigger red, and you know now I'm seeing lists where you know you're not even playing Frenzy and you're playing Stars of Extinction. It's kind of wild with like a million Siege Game commanders. I don't know. That deck looks powerful, but honestly, you know what? If I have like a PTQ or PT tomorrow or something, I'll just copy whatever Derek's playing and play Golgari. To be honest, it looks super powerful. It's been played by a lot of the stronger players, and you know what? Sometimes the hive mind is correct.
Makes sense to me. What about you, Elliot?
I haven't paid too much attention to standard other than watching Derek stream every once in a while, so maybe I'm just brainwashed into thinking Golgari's good. I think there's, you know, Golgari's probably the deck you want to be playing to give yourself the best shot in a tournament, but if you've been spending the past 5 years trying to play Steam Vents in every format, then, you know, I think Jeskai's probably okay. It's still not a good deck, but it's okay in the format. Izzet Drake's probably a pretty good option. I think that there's no really reason to be playing any of the Boros decks. I think they're kind of weak right now. Yeah, that's kind of where it is. I think Big Red's kind of interesting. I did play a couple leagues with that a while ago, and I think it was just lacking instance was my my kind of big issue with it, but it like chaining together Siege Gang Commanders is super powerful, and just the card Experimental Frenzy that's such a powerful effect that we haven't. It's just Future Sight, and they gave it to red, so who knows? That could be a deck as well.
Okay, that does it for standard. The Magic World Cup, or World Magic Cup, I keep screwing that up also. World Magic Cup is happening this weekend, and as I talked about last week, most people don't care, but one of my best friends is competing in as part of Team Canada, and I'll be watching. I'll be tuning in to make sure to check him out, check his record. In the article, it goes Canada. I think he's separating it in tiers. Rich Hagon, who always previews different countries every year, always writes a nice preview article. Here it goes. In this group, Canada and Denmark look the most promising of this group. Adam Ragsdale has a pair of GP top 8s. That represents solid support to PT champion Alexander Hayne. The concern must be that despite a ton of talent, Canada has frequently failed to deliver at this tournament. Why is that, Andy?
We soft. We soft. I don't know. We're maybe it's luck. I don't know what to say. It can't be just that, because every year we pull out one of some of the best teams out there, and just keeps happening that we do very badly in the World Magic Cup. So I don't know what it is.
I mean, I
genuinely don't know. I
liked your team. You were on it. John was on it. I mean, I've liked.
Devin Giles was on it.
Devin Giles, Vizier Master, right?
Yeah, local cutie.
And then we had some sick Cale Thompson team with Lucas Yao. I mean, we've had teams where there's at least two big names, at least to us Canadians, and we've always consistently failed to deliver since this thing ever was created. So hopefully this time we're going to see Adam Ragsdale and Alex Hayne. And it escapes me who's the third one, because
Randall. It's Randall.
Right.
It's my boy Randall. He's from my hometown. Where I'm from, we didn't have a store, like a local store at all. We would drive to Hamilton, and that's how I met Rob. We got a local store, and we started having drafts. And one of the first draft nights, Randall showed up and Alex showed up, and they've only been playing Magic for I want to say 3-4 years at most. And Randall is on the WMC team. It's his first time going to a professional level event. And Alex recently top 8'd Montreal and won a Moto PTQ about 2 weeks before that. So Magic from my hometown is really blowing up. And it's kind of funny because everybody knows Randall as this little kid. I think he's 19. He's 18 or 19. He's fairly young. And he gets to go to, where is it, Spain? Europe somewhere. Is really sweet.
Does that mean someone dropped out? Because didn't he finish 4th?
Yeah. Who was it? I think his name, I can't remember his name. The guy who came first, Micah. Yeah. He wasn't originally planning on going. I guess day 1 he was XO and said, I don't know if I'm coming back for day 2. Came back for day 2, beat everybody somehow, and just came first. And then I guess a little bit before the deadline decided he wasn't going anymore. And Randall was 4th. Randall beat Edgar for the backup slot and gets to go to the WMC now.
Well, I hope he represents us well, because I know some people were like, oh man, wouldn't have been sweet if Edgar was on the team. But I know Randall has checked in our show a few times, has tweeted at me a few times. So I hope nothing but the best for him and the team, and hope he crushes it. And especially if it's someone you know. And I've also seen Adam Ragsdale at the tournament that I believe it's the one that Cale ended up winning, where Ragsdale started X and O, was red hot after day 1, I believe, and just fizzled out and couldn't make the team. So it's cool to see him being on a team with Alex as well. And 3 people to cheer on now that you know all their names. We'll wrap up with this topic, which is Twitch chat in the World Magic Cup, article on Daily MTG. We're going to get all your thoughts here for this year's World Magic Cup happening December 14 and 16 in Barcelona, Spain, and streaming on twitch.tv/magic. We'll be testing Twitch chat in subscriber-only mode just for the duration of the event. We're doing this to see how sub-only mode impacts the stream and whether it can further our goals of creating a better quality conversation around what is happening on stream and being a positive place for the community. We strive to continuously improve the quality of chat during our events. This is a further exploration of the best possible ways to better the experience. Wizards is dedicated to bringing people together with our games and creating safe, inclusive environments for players of all types, whether in physical spaces or online. So, Andy, is this something that you felt they should have done a long time ago, or is this something you're not really sure if it's a positive or a negative?
I'm going to say it's a positive to try it 100%. Like, the previous, whatever you want to call it, strategy was not working. It was incredibly toxic and incredibly a terrible experience for anyone who wasn't like the quote unquote like normal looking Magic player, and anyone else would just get like destroyed in Twitch chat, and it was just a terrible, terrible place and a bad representation for the game. And changing it to subscriber only mode means like you have to pay $5 at least to get banned from this chat. So hopefully like that, and maybe some like they'll probably get a lot more Twitch subscribers. Honestly, I've seen it work before. In like SCG, I think went into subscriber only mode and just got 1 million subs. So maybe that means they'll pay some moderators to also do some good work, and then maybe we'll actually have a usable Twitch chat.
Andy, you should conjure up some controversy. Ask WotC where this money is going.
What if? Well, they could just be like, "We're going to keep it." That's totally reasonable. We're gonna make some profit.
Derek, have you gone subscriber only, or will you ever consider that for your personal stream? And what do you think about this move on WotC's part?
I actually had a big conversation with this on my Twitch stream today about the state of Twitch subscriber only mode chat, and I think for a streamer of my size, I get anywhere from like 75 to 150 viewers consistently right now. There's no reason for me to do that. I think it's absolutely abysmal. I don't even have mods in my channel consistently, and I can normally keep track of it for myself. But for Wizards to do this, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially how they explained it in their article. It's really well thought out. There was a couple things brought up in my chat though. For one, I think that Twitch as a whole is a viewer experience, and a lot of people chime into Twitch specifically because there's a chat. So I think recently they started having Thursday Night Football on Twitch. I think that was a really smart move because people want to talk about the sports game, and now they can do it on a large hub such as Twitch, where they can get their ideas out there, and it's firsthand going on as you see it, right? It's not like on Reddit a couple hours later or whatever, right? It's as it's happening. Not everybody has football fans in their household. They don't always get that conversation. They don't get that experience. Some people are really worried that it might deter viewers from watching if they don't get that chat experience. The issue is with all the negative and derogatory comments that it already drives people away from watching in the first place because it's just an awful experience. So I think although this isn't the best answer, like the best answer would be perfect moderation and everybody being able to talk, and then you just have an auto mod constantly figuring things out, or even regular mods. But I think like this is a good alternative for now, and them saying they're going to check it out and look it out in the future and check their stats and see what's going on, I think is really good. And to touch on what Andy said about the sub-only thing, I think it's much less about the money, because it's like it's like drops in the water, right? Like it's margins. They don't care about the money that much. But if they make a Magic the Gathering emote and you start having people spamming this emote in different channels, that's much better for Magic the Gathering as a brand than it is the $250 they get from each person subscribing, even if it's $2,500, even if it's $2,000, whatever, right? Like they want to make sure that people are playing with this emote in other channels, maybe on the Hearthstone channel, maybe on a big Magic streamers channel, right? It's all about marketing. And I think that's really good for them also to make it a sub-only chat, so you have people subscribing and getting that emote.
I'm just thinking about, wow, can't wait until you have time to stream Final Nub. I just feel like just put your face on Grishoalbrand's body, and that's an emote. Easy branding for you, or just some like underground dojo related emotes will go to you as well. Elliot, what do you think about this news? Positive?
Definitely agree with a lot of the points the other guys are saying. I do think it's a net positive for sure. I think that it's kind of important to note that the most recent Pro Tour stream had something like 40,000 viewers on average. And when you have a chat, granted, not everyone's chatting, but like 40,000 people typing it all at the same time, you're not going to be able to have like a real conversation. It's just like throwing words out into the void. So the fact that you're depriving people of this chat experience, I'm not so sure that I buy that. I think that, if anything, having a sub-only mode where someone wants to pay their $5 or use their Twitch Prime to get in the mix, then, if anything, that's going to create a more positive chat experience for the people that are looking for it. I also think that, perfect moderation or perhaps, and stay with me here, people not being shitty to each other is ideal, but this is kind of maybe the best that we can do. I also think that the point that Derek made about the branding is kind of big also. Maybe instead of people spamming Hearthstone 2.0 in the Magic streams, we spam Magic 2.0 in the Hearthstone streams. So maybe that's the future of Twitch.
Yeah. I didn't even consider like the emote thing. Like, I agree with Derek. Like, the money is irrelevant. It's not the point at all. It sucks that it's like a tool to make it so chat could be usable. But yeah, the emote thing is like actually kind of a great idea. Like, getting some good Magic emotes. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that alone could make it well worth it as well, even if this doesn't work out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how many people. Okay, let's do this over and under. How many people are actually going to care and tune in this weekend? Elliot, let's start with you. Putting you on the hot seat.
Wait, what's the line? Are you setting the line?
Yeah. No,
I'm setting the line?
Yeah.
10,000.
10,000. All right. I don't know if Derek or Andy care to give a guess?
Is anything else on? Is there anything else Magic related on? Is there an SCG?
I think SCGs are done for the year.
Okay. Well, under.
Under 10K.
I'll take the over. I'll take double the over. Do I get twice the payout?
You get twice the number of hugs.
Nice. I love hugs. I think it's going to be like 20K or more.
I don't even know what the format is.
It's Unified Standard.
Unified Standard is one of the most miserable formats I've ever played.
I mean, watching really good Magic players play good Magic, though.
It's adjusted,
this format's
though, right?
really good. This format's really good. There's 5 unique decks in the format that don't have a lot of overlay of cards.
You are right. Like, I genuinely be like, actually, even though you sound extremely sarcastic, you could easily have like some white deck, green, black, and Izzet, and just have 2 tier 1 decks and a tier 1.5 deck, like, which you can't do much better than.
Yeah, if you assume that everybody's playing at least one green black deck, you have between like 2 and 3 other decks in like Phoenix, Mono Red, Jeskai, and then like a white deck if you want to do that. And that's like 5 total decks, and there's no overlay of like Experimental Frenzy maybe in the red deck and the white red deck, but like there's no overlay of like Jeskai. You can just build a little differently. Or like just don't play Niv-Mizzets in the Drake deck, or like don't play Drakes if you're playing Jeskai, right? Like, I don't know.
Did you say don't play Niv-Mizzet in the Drake deck?
Okay, I take that. Just don't play Drakes. Just don't play Drakes, okay? Okay. Shh.
You can't play Steam Vents.
I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna talk louder than you. Okay. Shh.
Okay. That was awesome. I mean, Andy, last episode you said this is the best standard in a while, and maybe that helps with Unified. John, what's your take? We had Andy taking the under on 10K, Derek taking the over on 10K, and going to 20K possibly. What's your take?
Some Magic World Cup, right? I didn't know it was this weekend. I didn't know what format it was. I haven't heard anything about it. Take a guess if I'm going over or under.
Going a big fat under from John.
Yes. Unified Standard seems horrible. At least Unified Modern, there's so many cards in the card pool, and there's so many different archetypes that it's kind of interesting to see what kind of combination that people work out. Unified Standard is just like, okay, there's like 5-6 viable decks. Throw on the dartboard, which 3 you land on, done. Like, I don't know. I don't think it shows off the creativity of the pro players, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think the field is just going to be like 50% or more of like green, black, red, blue, and white.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest 3 decks.
Remember, like Pro Tour Dominaria, it's red, black, blue, white, and some foil. That's it. It was like a triangle. It was miserable.
I mean, I thought it was interesting, but like, I mean, I guess I'm in the smallest percentile of people who find this interesting. Simply because, like, I think it's interesting because every team has a player on it who has the highest pro points for each country or whatever. So, like, these are some of the best players in the world working with some people who just won their national event. So for some places, their national events are significantly softer than, like, any North American country, right? Not to down talk them, but just to be honest. To me, like, this is so cool as a unique Magic event that we don't normally get. We won't really get in the future. We get to cheer on a team that we all have a personal connection to that has something to do with where we're from. And it's like not something you normally get at a pro tour. Like, I can cheer for Owen, but I can't really connect to Owen other than I want to be the best player in the world or whatever, right? You know, like, this is a very unique tournament. It's maybe like poorly advertised, but I don't think that takes away from how good this tournament can be.
Yeah, I wish they had. It'd be so cool, like those other games, if they had video of each team, like those promo videos or those like player intros, or like Team Canada, and I don't know, maybe they could have done it. Maybe they could have just gave them free flights to the GP before, so they had time to film this stuff. I don't know. Could have done something that get us hyped. Like, you probably are attached because your pal Randall's in there. Like, replace Randall with some random. Probably don't give a crap. So,
I mean, I think it's a couple years ago, or even like every year, one team wears a costume or something, and they give away like best dressed team or most national team or whatever. I think that's really cool. I think that's something I want to see. And if you like, with the big blow up of Arena, you have all these casual players flowing in. I think this is a huge opportunity to really promote Magic in different countries. Like, we keep seeing these Southern American Magic players crush the Magic scene. Those are the teams you want to watch this year. They have a huge country support. They're huge national support for each other, and that's what I want to see. That's what I love to see.
Man.
And I think if they blow this, like, I'm just going to be a little bit more sad about the state of Magic.
Well, they're canning this thing, and this is the most positive I've ever heard you.
I'm turning over a new leaf, KYT. You know, couple nice things have been happening in the Magic community. I'm trying to be a bit more positive. You know, New Year's resolution, come early.
I mean, there's a lot of haters. Whether it's iTunes reviews from iTunes or any Canada or US site, but obviously I'm not going to let those affect my judgment of you. You're not supposed to have everyone love you. This is all about having strong opinions. John, what's up next as we wrap up the show? Let our listeners know what's up next for you. What big tournament is on the line?
One of my bucket list items is I've never played in a sealed Grand Prix, and as people know, Grand Prix Vancouver is coming at the end of the month, right before New Year's. So thank you, Wizards. But I'm gonna try and study UMA and see if I can day two myself and play in the draft, since my goal was to day two the Pro Tour and get an extra free draft in at the Pro Tour at Dominaria, but I didn't get it. So hopefully I can get it here. If people are around in GP Vancouver and come say hi, I'd love to just chat and just hang out.
I wonder how many resources there are, because I can't imagine people are just like massively grinding UMA drafts. So are there resources out there right now for you to look up pick lists?
So I think the two resources I like is one, limited resource obviously is an excellent and well-established podcast with LSB and Marsha Sutcliffe. I'm sorry, but the resource I like more is the Lords Unlimited podcast, which has now been sponsored by SCG. Those guys are grinders of limited. They play a bunch of limited. They are always near the trophy leaders for the intermediate queues, and they provide really good sites. So if you guys like limited, if you're starting out and trying to learn limited, I think Lords of Limited is a very good resource for that.
Okay, so definitely check out Limited Resources and Lords of Limited. Anything up for you guys, my man? And I think my guys, hopefully my guys, men from Moto, are going to do something. So I'll plug them if they're going to do some UMA content. Elliot, I'm probably just resting until the Mythic Champs. Are you doing anything?
I'm going to be going to Grand Prix New Jersey at the end of January, but that's not for a while. And I think Toronto is in between that and the Mythic Champs, so I'm going to hit at that as well. So I got a couple Magic Fests on the horizon, but nothing too soon.
I'm not going to get tired of that term. Derek, just Moto grinding, playing some Modern.
Yeah, there's always weekend challenges, and I might go to Jersey. I'm definitely going to Cleveland, not for the Mythic Championship, just for the Mythic Fest.
Magic Fest.
Yeah, that's what I said, KYT. I might now that I'm playing Modern, I might go to more face-to-face opens with the new updated list and more prizing and different branding. So that might be on my horizon. But I think that's it for me. So catch me on the interwebs.
All right, Andy.
I'm going to Magic Fest, New Jersey, and probably face-to-face Toronto Open Plus.
All right.
Magic Fest, Cleveland.
Magic Fest, Cleveland. Man.
Magic Fest is actually a fine name. All these damn complainers.
What? No, it's not. It's copyrighted by that one English magician Twitter.
Well, I'm sure Watsy will buy him out or kill him.
No in between. It's one or the other. That's what they're going to do to Twitch chat. They're going to buy out Twitch chat or kill Twitch chat.
Smurf's not going to make it.
All thousands of Smurfs aren't going to make it.
Shoutouts to everyone in chat. Shoutouts to Jay Rich. Well, everyone on the show that's interacting in chat, because you guys are actually making me laugh more than anyone else. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Marcus. Says, I will say multiple people came out to John and chatted him up, and nobody came up to me. RIP standard player. True. I mean, Marcus was the one that was shown on SCG coverage, the finals, the whole finals. It was on him. But man, sometimes the god of the graveyard, just some branding, the underground dojo. You know, you don't even stream, and you're getting that attention. Just play wacky decks and say like funky words like underground dojo, and you're in. So for all these guys, Andy, Derek, Elliot, John, myself, who may or may not play more Magic after the top 8, thank you for checking us out. Make sure to like, subscribe this channel. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast via your podcast app of your choice. Any podcast. My recommended choice is Pocket Cast on Android. And we will see you next week. And hopefully have some, I don't know, maybe some UMA draft experience. So we'll see you next good week, guys. Thanks.